Hashem, we're back. Sing a little Niggun without the guitar. I lie, lie, I lie, 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 lie. I lie, lie, I lie, 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 I lie, lie. I lie, I lie, lie, Okay, so we're moving on to lesson Torah Pei, which is 80, and in the first part of the Likutey Moharan. And somebody left a comment on YouTube, I don't know who the person is, man or woman, said that the music is annoying. So I guess dreams come true because I don't have a guitar on Sfirat HaOmer, so l'chaim to this person. But if I did, I would have played more music just to annoy them. Okay, so we're starting off with the pasuk. Rabbeinu Zal potech b'pasuk Hashem oz la'amo yiten Hashem yivarech et amo v'shalom. Hashem gives strength to his nation, and Hashem blesses his nation with peace. Or I should really say with beshalom, because it's not really peace. And as we continue, he's going to explain the meaning of this. And this is also from Torah zo melashon chaverim velo yadua matai ne'emra. This is the Torah that was given to Reb Nassim from the Hasidim. Shalom Aleichem. To Katie, there you go. That's a nice compliment. She said, I love your music. Okay. That's it. Now you balanced it out. And of course, my mother, I have to remember, my mother's back from a cruise to Brazil. And Yael and Avital and David and everybody, Carlos, everyone who watches afterwards. Shalom Aleichem to you. Okay, so this was given over by the Hasidim to Reb Nassim, and he wrote it down. And normally at the end of those Torahs, he says, well, this wasn't given over so well. I'm going to explain it, but I think this Torah was given over pretty clearly. I'm sure he'll add an explanation at the end. What is the greatness of Shalom? It's that it combines two opposites, b'bchinat Yosef, and this is connected to Yosef. V'al yedei zeh yechol limtzo atzmo al kiddush Hashem, and through this, a person has the ability to have self-sacrifice to the point of giving up their life for learning Torah and davening. So just to clarify that, it does mean al kiddush Hashem to give up your life, but really what he's talking about here is that we're willing to really push in learning Torah and davening. הנה ידוע שגודל השלום, כמו שדרשו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, שלא מצא הקדוש ברוך הוא כלי machazik bracha ela hashalom. So it's known that the greatness of shalom is, as the sages of blessed memory said in Oktzin, that Hashem did not find any other fitting vessel to hold his blessing other than shalom. Shene'emar, as it said in Tehillim, Hashem oz la'amo yitin, Hashem yivarech et amo b'shalom. As we opened with the verse, that Hashem gives strength to his nation. And how does he give strength to his nation? Through shalom. Ad kan leshano, that's the verse. Dahainu, that is to say, mizesha pasuk kisher et bracha l'shalom. So this verse is making connecting the blessing to shalom. Yesh nilmod she'akli shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu machazik et bracha hu shalom. So what is the vessel? So we can learn out from this. What is the vessel that's holding Hashem's bracha? It's shalom. And what is the bracha? Hashem wants to bless the Jewish people. What is Hashem blessing? And Hashem wants to give the Jewish people strength. And what is Hashem blessing the Jewish people with? Hashem is blessing the Jewish people with shalom. And shalom is the vessel that can hold the blessing from Hashem. Umau shalom. And what is shalom? That's why I don't say peace, because says what shalom. So there's a footnote here. Stam shalom, just peace. Hu shehayu shnei meriva ve'ata ishlimu b'neihem. There were two people that were fighting or arguing with one another, and they made peace with each other. Ulam pamim rabot ein ze shalom. But many times this is not peace. Ela achna'ah, but rather it's subjugation. Right now we have I don't know what it's called. It's not a war anymore. It's a ceasefire. But what is Trump hoping for? Trump is hoping not for peace. I guess it would be great if Iran said we don't want to be a terrorist state anymore. But Hashem is hoping for peace that comes through hachna'ah, that comes through subjugation, meaning that we're going to put so much pain and suffering on the Iranians that they'll agree to our conditions. However, they're not going to, because the Iranians don't see the world the way that Trump sees it. This is a common theme between Middle Eastern, or I guess Islamic countries, and the West, that they don't understand one another. The people like Trump think if we build Riviera in Gaza, then there won't be Hamas. Hamas thinks that Americans are just stupid and we're just going to keep blowing ourselves up until we kill enough Israelis till they all leave and go back to America. Neither of those are going to happen. And so that's how we end up where we are. So that's obviously not shalom. Ishlimu b'nei ulam. Okay, so she'achad nichna l'shenim v'ten kenegdo. So one is subjugated to the other, and he says, okay, I give up. Ulam mikar shalom hu. But really, the main aspect of peace is sheshnei hafachim nisharim adayin b'mekomam. The two opposites remain in their place. Bli lihitpatel achad l'sheni. Really, Ari, you got to get a copy of the hotel. Or if you just remind me, I'll order it for you. I'll send it to you. I just don't remember. Or I'll print it up for you. I don't mind doing that either. So the two of them remain themselves, but they bli litpatel echad l'sheni, without one nullifying themselves to the other. B'chol ofen yesh shalom b'neihem, and still there's peace between them. So when you have people that really who are two opposites, you also have that in marriage. You have shalom bayit, when this one is like this and that one is like that. Like, for example, now there's an electric shortage. Maybe it's over, a blackout in that part of the neighborhood from 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's 6 hours. I said to my wife, would you like the link that the electric company sent me for regular updates? And she said, no, I'm not you. I don't mind sitting in the dark. But me, I was at work and I was checking the updates. I'm not even at home. So, shnei hafachim, two opposites. But most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, even more, we get along. So that's the shalom that Rabbi Nachman is talking about. That each of them remains themselves, but there's peace between them. V'lich ora kashe, but at first glance it seems difficult. What's the question? Mahu shalom, what is peace? הרי כולנו יודעים מהו שלום. Everybody knows what peace is. אלא הכוונה בשאלה הזו לבאר חידוש. But the reason that Rabbi Nachman is asking mהו shalom, what is peace, is to bring about a new understanding of it. שעיקר shalom hu, that the main attribute of peace is שגם לאחר השלום עדיין נשארו שני הפכים. Even after peace, both sides remain what they are. בכל אופן הם יכולים להתקיים יחד, and then they can exist together. So that's why I keep using the word shalom instead of peace. ומחבר תרי שני הפכים. And now he's going, and what does peace do? It brings together two opposites. פירוש, that is to say, לא שאחד מכניע את השני, not that one subjugates the other, אלא שהוא מחבר את שני ההפכים, but rather it brings together the two opposites. So, like this, for example, left hand, right hand, bring together two opposites. That's shalom. And shalom is connected to shalem, which is complete. ואף שהם נשארים שונים, יש ביניהם שלום. And even though they remain different, there's peace between them. כמו שדרשו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, as the sages of blessed taught in the Zohar, בפסוק, עושה שלום במרומיו, that Hashem makes peace in the heavens, in the upper realms. כי זה המלאך גבריאל מאש, because here we have the angel Gabriel that's made from fire, והמלאך מיכאל, and the angel Michael that's made from water, והם תרי שני הפכים, and these are two opposites. Water and fire are two opposites. כי מים מכבה אש, והאש שורף את המים. Because water puts out fire, and fire makes water turn to steam. והקדוש ברוך הוא עושה שלום ביניהם, ומרחיבם ביחד, and Hashem makes peace between them, and connects the two of them together. ואינם מזיקים אחד את השני, and they don't cause damage one to the other. והוא בחינת Yosef, and this is connected to Yosef, so we know that we have Yosef, we have Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and then we have Yosef. So really, Yaakov is Tiferet. Tiferet is connecting Chesed, which is Abraham, Gevurah, which is Yitzchak. You bring the stringency and the kindness together, and then you have Tiferet, you have beauty, and that is the combination of the two. I guess Yosef is one step further from Yitzchak. Yaakov. So bringing these two opposites together is the aspect of Yosef, and now we're going to spend quite a bit of time speaking about Yosef. Sfirat Yasod, Oseh Shalom. So the attribute of foundation, Yasod, which is what makes peace. שהוא בחינה זו של יסוד, מחבר תרי שני הפכים, חסדים וגבורות, להיות יחד, כלי רוחני אחד. Yosef, which is the attribute of Yesod, which is foundation, connects these two opposites, which is kindness and stringency, להיות יחד, to be together in one spiritual vessel. Chasadim, just an example of kindness and stringency, when you force yourself to do something good. For example, you have some bad habit, there's something you shouldn't be doing, and you force yourself to not do it. So you would think, if you're all chesed, then let me do it. Like smoking. I'm, Baruch Hashem, not a smoker, but I know people that do smoke and they want to stop smoking. That's a hard thing to do. So you would think, if I'm all chesed, I'm just going to smoke all the time. But if I'm really chesed, then I have to have kavura, and the kavura forces me to stop smoking so that I can actually have the health benefits of not smoking. And that's where you bring the two together. I remember many years ago, I used to be part of these internet marketing forums. I think it was called the Warrior Forum, one of those. I was really involved in these. I also sold courses in them. And there was some guy in Australia that I was following, and he didn't have kids. He was quite successful in selling these products in the marketing forum. Shalom Aleichem to, I don't know how to say your name, Dupa, Abraham, welcome. He said, if I had kids, I'd let them smoke and drink and watch TV all day. And I'm sure he meant it. That's probably why he doesn't have kids. But you would think that's chesed, right? What kind of cruel parent forces their kids to go to school and do homework and not smoke and not eat whatever they want? But that gvura, that stringency, is the real chesed, is the real kindness. Chasadim in b'chinat mayim. And kindness is connected to water, which is the malach Michael, which is the angel Michael. Ugvurot in b'chinat esh malach Gavriel. And stringency is connected to fire, which is the angel Gavriel, and also the name Gavriel is stringency. Gvurot. I guess the stringency of Hashem. Lakach ne'amar b'Yosef, and that's why it said about Yosef in Bereshit, v'yavo Yosef et dibatam ra'a el avihem. The translation is here. Yosef siper liYaakov al chata'ei achiv leda'ato. Yosef told his father Yaakov about the transgressions or the bad speech of his siblings according to Yosef's opinion. Hu b'chinat gvurot. So to be a snitch is being gvuradik in this sense, is being stringent and tough. Because the sages in the blessed memory taught in Masechet Sota, Smon docha, the left pushes away, Hatchia v'achaka, he al yedei b'chinat smol, pushing away comes from the left hand, the b'chinat gvurot shehem mitzad smol, which is stringency, which comes from the left side, v'od k'tib b'yad, and there's an addition here that was written by hand. Yosef sha'alach lechapes et achiv b'tzivui aviv, when Yosef went to look for his brothers at the command of his father, v'sha'al hamalach ma'u mechapes, and the angel asked him, what is he looking for? V'ana lo Yosef, and Yosef answered, et achai anochi mevakesh. My brothers, I'm looking for my brothers. It's a very poetic language, I guess just biblical language. This is a phrase, by the way, that was used by the people who want to bring the hostages home. Did you see it around? Et achai anochi mevakesh. It was really fascinating. When I saw it, I was like, you mean left-wingers are quoting the Torah to bring the hostages home? Yep, that's what they're using. You'll still see I did quite a bit of driving over the last few days, last week or so. I went on a trip during Pesach to visit all the grandchildren. And then yesterday or Sunday, I went to pick up my daughter from Mikveh Yisrael. She was in the boarding school there, but now she's back home. So I had to schlep all of her stuff back. And I got to see lots of graffiti while I was driving on the highways. And still you see the graffiti left from the hostages. So this was one of the phrases that they used. Et achaya anochim bevakesh. I'm looking for my brothers. And this is connected to kindness. So we had these two aspects in Yosef. First, he snitches on his siblings. That's considered kavura. And then he goes to look for them. That's considered kindness. And continuing in Masechet Sota, as a sage of last memory said, Yamin mekarevet, and the right hand brings close. So small docha, Yamin mekarevet. This is the phrase that the left hand pushes away, the right hand brings close. And the left hand is gevura, and the right hand is chesed. That's why we do mitzvot starting with the right hand. Like when you wrap the tefillin, you're wrapping it on the left hand with the right hand. This is the chesed over the gevura, the kindness over the stringency. Hakiruv al yedei b'bchinat yamin. So coming close comes through the right hand. B'bchinat chasadim shehem b'tzad yamin, which is kindness, which comes from the right side. Uchtiv, and it's written in Bereshit, v'Yosef hu hasholet, and Yosef was the viceroy. Right? He was the head of all of Egypt. B'bchinat gvurot. In order to be that, you have to be tough and stringent. Ah, my cousin watching. Shalom Aleichem to Richard. Ki memshala hi al yedei chozek ugvura. How does a person rule? They rule through a strong fist and being tough. Umiyad ne'emar, and immediately it says there, Hu hamashpir lekol am haaretz. But he was the one that gave food to everybody in the land. And by the way, the big supermarket chain here that used to be like, I think the only one in Israel was called the Mashpir. And the Mashpir means the provider. And it comes, this is the beauty of modern Hebrew, to call like a clothing store and a store that sells household goods and basically everything, a general store, to call it the Mashpir. If you understand that Yosef was called the Mashpir, and you understood that Yosef was the one that was providing for all of Egypt during the time of famine, then the meaning of the department store all of a sudden has like a lot of meaning. It's a beautiful thing. This is the beauty of modern Hebrew. So, Hu hamashpir lekol am haaretz. So he is giving to everybody in the land. Ze b'chinat chasadim. This is connected to kindness. So, right, we have Gevura, which in order to be the ruler of Egypt, you have to be tough. But in order to be the ruler of Egypt, you have to be kind. And you have to have this balance between good and bad. I don't remember the guy who... You know his name? No. So this guy was really fascinating. He was a full-on dictator. He took over Singapore. Singapore was a disaster, and he forced the country to become one of the wealthiest and most productive countries in the world today, without any natural resources. And he literally did it with his own will. And there's the videos of him online. Once you start watching one of them, you get fed more and more and more. I watched a bunch of these videos. He was a Ben Gurion type person, basically the founder of modern day Singapore. And he knew how to do both. Like, he knew how to be tough on the one hand, very tough on the one hand, on the other hand, very kind. He wanted to make sure that everybody had money for education and healthcare, but in order to do that, he had to basically break the economy. Here you have the same thing in Brazil. Is that the guy's name? Milei? He's in Brazil? Or Argentina, where he had to do the same thing. Argentina, the currency was worthless. He forced people into this incredible poverty. I'm not keeping up with it, but I'm assuming that it's working somewhat. And so that's the combination. And this is what Rabbi Nachman is saying is Shalom. This is Shalom. Shalom is when you have Gevura and Chesed at the same time. They remain separate, but they work together. So the working together is bringing the two opposites, and when the two opposites come, it is a vessel for receiving Hashem's blessing. Ze b'chinat chasadim, ki hashpa'at shefa u b'chinat chesed. Because giving out abundance is connected to chesed. Give out tzedakah, for example. You want to be kind to people, that's connected to chesed. V'ne'emar etzlo, and it said regarding Yosef, Shenasa, Yosef Mishnah Lamelech, when Yosef became the viceroy, the second in charge of the king, v'yiku lefanav Avrech, and he was called Avrech. Now, Avrech today in yeshiva means somebody who's learning, a young person who's learning in yeshiva. But here, Rashi gives an explanation. Perish Rashi, and Rashi explains, Shehu Lashon Notri Kon. He's going now to break the word up. Av b'chochma v'rach b'shanim. He was like a father in wisdom, but soft and young in years. Adam mevugar b'chochma. He was a mature man when it came to his wisdom. Af shehu tza'ir b'shanim, even though he's young in his years. That's the meaning of Rech, Av and Rech. Shehu mochin de gadlut v'katnut. So it has the combination of an expanded consciousness and a constricted consciousness. Ki Av b'chochma romez al mochin de gadlut. Because if he's like an adult as far as his maturity goes, that's connected to an expanded consciousness. V'rach b'shanim, but he's young, youthful in his years. Romez an mochim de katnut hints at a constricted or a small-minded consciousness. Shehem hainu shnei b'chinot mochim halalu hem b'chinat chasadim gvurot keyadua mochim de gadlut v'b'chinat chasadim mochim de katnut הם מבחינת גבורות. That we have here these two opposites. We have kindness and stringency as it's known, and the expanded consciousness is connected to kindness, and the small-minded consciousness is connected to gevura. נמצא שיוסף כלל את שני הכוחות יחדיו. Yosef included these two opposite powers within him, chasadim gvurot, kindness and stringency, v'asa shalom b'neihem, and he created peace between them. So in order to be on the highest level to receive Hashem's bracha, you have to have both. You have to have stringency and kindness. So a person that's very strict by nature needs to work on their kindness. And a person that's very kind by nature needs to work on their stringency. Right? So we can just make it very simple. The person who has gevura says no all the time. The person who has chesed says yes all the time. So the person who says no all the time has to learn to say yes sometimes. And the person that says yes all the time has to learn how to say no sometimes. And that's how they create the balance. And the closer the two of them get, the more balanced the person will be. And the more of Hashem's blessing can come down into that person. And that was Yosef. Yosef was called Ish Matzliach. He was the model of a successful man or a successful person. He literally went from prison, from rags to riches. From prison to the second in command of Egypt within, they say, Keherefayim, within the blink of an eye. And in order to really maintain things when you're in that place, you have to be able to have both. So I'm sure you've met people that are wealthy, and sometimes people that are wealthy can lose touch of what it is to not have money. They lose touch of the chasadim, of the kindness. They just have a lot of gvura. They're also attacked by people who tell them that they're not good enough and that they should give them money and all kinds of other things, which creates an outer shell. But that's a real test for a person. When Hashem gives a person a lot of money, to still be able to know when to say yes and to know when to say no. Okay, we'll continue a little bit more. Now he's going to explain the connection between kindness and stringency, which comes about through sanctifying oneself for Hashem, or giving up one's life for Hashem, the sanctification of Hashem's name. It doesn't have to mean sanctification. It doesn't have to mean giving oneself up, your life up for Hashem. By the way, it can mean, hi, Shalom Aleichem. It can mean also a person in a position of power, and they remain a kosher yid. You know, somebody. You have all these Jews that are involved in the upper echelons in American power. I don't remember one of them having a long beard, tzitziot, and a kippah. Although there might be, but I can't think of anybody. Can you think of anyone? I don't know. There are always people like, you have Jared Kushner, right? He says he's an Orthodox Jew. You never see him with a kippah. He doesn't have a beard. You wouldn't even know that he was a Jew if people didn't talk about it. I'm sure that he keeps Torah mitzvot, but if he were to grow a beard, now it's Sfirat Omer. He says, I don't care if I'm in Pakistan, I'm growing a beard, I'm wearing my tzitziot out, I'm wearing a big fat kippah, whichever one you want, colorful, Haredi, whatever you want. And, you know, there's this comedian, Yochai Spander, he wears a big Magen David. I'd also wear a big Magen David. That's called a Kiddush Hashem. Because when you're in such a public position like that, and you outwardly say, yes, I'm a Jew, that's called Kiddush Hashem. There's also the Kiddush Hashem of somebody who has to give up their life, because, for example, they say, you know, either take this gun and kill your friend, or I'm going to kill you. That's one of the situations when you have to give up your life. So even though it's a terrible dilemma, from a halachic point of view, there's no moral dilemma there. The answer is, you don't shoot your friend. I'm sure that the Nazis did this many times, and most likely if somebody did shoot their friend, then they killed that person as well. Like, they weren't going to save anyone. They were just causing more suffering. So that's one of the places where you were supposed to give up your life. Physically give up your life. וכיצד ייתכן שאפילו פושעי ישראל מוסרים נפשם על קידוש Hashem? So we have this idea of sanctifying Hashem's name, but how would it even be possible that somebody who's a Jew but is a total sinner is going to give up their life for Hashem? And we do have many stories of people that were total sinners that gave up their lives for being a Jew. When somebody would say to them, for example, if a Nazi were to say to them, I'm going to kill you because you're a Jew, and if the person said, no, I'm not a Jew, don't kill me, then maybe they wouldn't have been killed. But many times those situations brought out the Pintel Yid, as the Alter Rebbe calls it. There's a little place within the soul that this spark comes out when a person realizes that they're going to leave this world, or they might leave this world, and they have the choice to leave this world as a Jew or not. And it comes out, and the Jew wants to leave this world as a Jew. And even people that are totally secular get to this place, and they say, I'm a Jew. What am I hearing? Okay. V'zeu Shalom bein chasadim legvurot. And this is the peace or the shalom that's brought between kindness and stringency. Sheyeshno etzel Yosef, which we have by Yosef. Shu b'chinat mesirut nefesh, which is an aspect of self-sacrifice, al kiddush Hashem, sanctifying Hashem's name. Ki kiddush Hashem hu gam ken b'chinat chasadim gvurot, because kiddush Hashem, sanctifying Hashem's name, also comes from a place of kindness and stringency. Ki hamoser et atzmo lekiddush Hashem, because a person who gives their life up for the sake of Hashem, mitchila hu nitlehev b'shal huvim derichu. I'm not good at reading Arabic. Derichimuta muta be'shalhevet ahava el Hashem yitbarach. So when a person gives up their life for Hashem, they're basically caught up in such a high level of inspiration that it's like they're surrounded by a fiery flame of love for Hashem. Perush halacha begimel averot chamorot, avodah zara, giloy areot, I can't say it, shvichut damim. So these are the three things that a person has to give their life up for. Idol worship, giloy areot is like having illicit relations, and spilling blood of another person. V'adin hu sheyarog v'al yarog. And what does that mean? That you should kill and not be killed, or not be killed? Do you know the phrase? How do you translate it?
One should allow themselves to be killed.
Yehareg v'al yavor. You should be killed and not transgress this. Thank you. Ve'im yesh mi shemachriach oto la'avor al achad mehem. If somebody forces a person to transgress one of these, tzarich hu limtzo et nafsho al kiddush Hashem v'lo ya'avor aleim. The person has to be willing to give up their lives for Hashem and not to transgress these things. She b'sha'a she midimel midat, I don't know what it says here, adin, שאפילו על מנהיג ישראל קל צריך למצוא נפשם. So I guess מנהג ישראל קל. So even over, I think that'd be pretty hard to do today. Maybe in the past people were stronger. To give up your life even for a small thing. והנה כדי למצוא נפש לא מספיק יראת שמיים. It's not just enough to have a fear of heaven to give up your soul, to give up your life. כי הרבה פעמים תגבר עליהם היראה מהמיתה, אולם שמתעורר את עצמו באש האהבה של השם. So it's not just enough for a person to say, okay, I know this is what I have to do. But at that moment, something's going to happen to a person. They're going to be surrounded by this fire of love from Hashem. בזה יוכל להתגבר על הפחד מהמיתה. And with this, a person can overcome the fear that they have from dying. ולכן כשהאדם בא למצוא את נפשו, and so then when a person is ready to give up their lives, תחילה הוא מעורר את עצמו באהבה גדולה אל השם יתברך. Already at the start of that, they're going to have this great fiery love for Hashem. You can imagine this, right? I've imagined it many times. I'm sure you can imagine it. That if you reach the situation where you had to give up your life, you can understand that you get to this place where I'm not connected to the world anymore. I'm not connected to this physical world anymore. And especially if it's happening for Kiddush Hashem, for one of these reasons, then you will be elevated by the mitzvah that you're doing. I've known many people that passed away and they were sick or very old before they passed away, and there's always the stage that they reach where they're no longer in this world. They're here physically, but they're not here mentally. They're not worried about their tooth appointment that they had 2 weeks from now, and they're not worried about the electric bill that wasn't paid. They're not into any of the matters of this world. There's a total disconnect from this world. And they reach a higher, I guess it would be mochim de gadlut. It'd be like a higher spiritual place. I've seen it many times. I wish I could get there in a healthy body and not be so worried about the problems of this world. But when you can, make an analogy to, for example, in summer camp. I worked in summer camps for many years. You get to the last day of summer camp and all the kids are like, screw everything, we don't care about anything because we're going to burn down this whole camp and nobody's going to be here for another year. It's kind of like that attitude. But when a person is willing to give up their life, they're going to have the power of the mitzvah that they're receiving, and at the same time the disconnect, knowing that they're going to leave this world. Shalom neda. That we don't have to know these things, that we should all be healthy, wealthy, and wise, and have long and healthy lives and not be faced with challenges like these. Okay, so a short story. We did my little new minhag of clicking through Ascent of Sfat. The Alter Rebbe, of course, who was the first Rebbe of the Chabad Lubavitch, came to Liozna, a small town in White Russia, and lots of people came to him for blessings and advice. And there was one of his Hasidim that lived in a nearby village. He came to the Alter Rebbe one day with tears in his eyes. He told the Rebbe that he has a teenage son, that he tried to raise him up in the path of Torah and Mitzvot, and he's a good boy, and he was learning, but suddenly something got into him, and he went off the derech, as we say. He didn't want to be religious anymore. And the heartbroken father said maybe he'll stop being religious altogether and completely turn his back on Judaism. Do you think that you can help my son? So the Alter Rebbe said, can you bring your son to me? So he said, well, I don't think my son's going to want to come to a rabbi like you. So the Alter Rebbe said, well, maybe you can find some excuse for him to come to Liozna, and once he's in town, I'll find a way to see him. You get him just to come to town, I'll find a way to see him. Maybe you can send him on some errand. So the Chassid went back home, and he had an idea. His son was very fond of riding on horseback. Now, these days, riding on horseback is no big deal. I have a daughter who works on a horse farm. All kinds of people come to the farm. It's considered a therapeutic thing. It's considered a good thing. Charedim come, handicapped. They have like a whole handicap setup to lift up a person and put them on the horse and strap them to the horse. And the person, she rides behind the person and holds them. All these things, horses are considered, like a beautiful thing. But in those days, when there were no cars, for a Jew to ride on a horse and not ride in the carriage or a wagon behind it was considered like crazy. That was totally insane. I guess it would be like the equivalent of a Harley Davidson. You're going to see a yeshiva bacher sitting there on one of those choppers, with all the smoke and everything. No, of course not. So his son enjoyed riding on horseback. And even though the father was concerned about what people said, the son wasn't concerned at all. So he said, okay, I'm going to tell my son to take the horse and ride it into Liozna. He said, I have an errand for you to do in town. And he was very excited. He told his father, you're going to let me ride the horse? He said, yes, I'll give you permission to ride the horse. And he comes into town, and word gets to the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe goes out into the street and stops the horse and says, Shalom Aleichem, I see you're a religious Jew. What are you doing riding on a horse? He said, a horse is much better than having the buggy, having the wagon behind it. So the Alter Rebbe says to him, really? What's better about riding a horse? He says, the horse is faster. You don't get caught up on the roads. You're not sitting there bumping up and down. You're riding on the actual motor that's pushing of course they didn't have a motor, but pushing, the horse forward. You're on the source of the energy and not behind it. And the Alter Rebbe said, so you can go faster on a horse, right? He said, yeah. He said, and if you're on the wrong path, then you'll go faster down the wrong path. Is that true? He said, yeah, if you take the wrong path and you're going really fast on a horse and not on the buggy, then it'll take you much further in the wrong direction. He said, and then what do you do if you're in the wrong direction? He said, well, if you realize that, you turn it around and you ride even faster going back. So the Alter Rebbe looked at him in the eyes. And I met the Lubavitcher Rebbe only one time. I didn't have the guts to meet him more than once, but one time looking in the Alter Rebbe's eyes, I can only imagine, because I looked in the Lubavitcher Rebbe's eyes, that was enough for him to get the message. He was riding his horse in the wrong direction, and he should ride it back really fast. And after that, he went back to his Torah learning and his davening and everything, and the Alter Rebbe achieved what the father had wanted. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we should ride our horses in the right direction, ride them quickly. And shkoyach to Aryeh for being here, and everybody for sticking around. And we'll continue next week, Be'ezrat Hashem. I'll just say, I was walking to shul on Shabbos, and looking at the sky, it was completely blue. And instead of saying not a cloud in the sky, I said not a missile in the sky. So Be'ezrat Hashem, by next week, not a missile in the sky as well. Shkoyach to everyone.